I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. I am continuing in the Gospels. We are now at the time of the Feast of Tabernacles in the last year of Christ's mortal ministry. This is 6 months before the crucifixion. Christ isn't spending most of his time. He's still in Galilee. He's spending most of his time instructing the 12, teaching them, trying to prepare them for his death and their later ministry. He has also now ordained the Quorum of the 70. We have this. So he is now finishing the organization of the church. He has already ordained he ordained the 12 a while ago now. We have the 70, so we see him getting everything ready for when he will no longer be with them. Now, with the Feast of Tabernacles, his family urged him to go down to Jerusalem. He said, you got a lot of people who believe in you down there. You need to go down there and show them who you are. Prove to them that you are the Messiah. But he said, it's not yet my time. They're going to try and kill me there, so I got to wait a little bit. That's where we were leaving it off. His family has gone down to the Feast of Tabernacles, I believe, by this time. But he's been holding off. He's still in Galilee. Now, we pick this up in this reading. We're going to read first in Luke and then in John. Now, the two readings are not of the same story. They're not the same information, but they are related in time. And so we're going to read them together. They're both very brief. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. And what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. So first, we turn to Luke. And we read now in Luke chapter 9, verses 51 to 56. So we turn first to Luke chapter 9, verses 51 to 56. And it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face, and they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. And they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias did? But he turned and rebuked them, and said, Ye know not what manner of spirit ye are of. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. So remember, Christ told his family to go down to Jerusalem. He wasn't going to go to the Feast of Tabernacles, not yet. Now, he is planning on going down. He's going down to Jerusalem because it is now about time, and he needs to do his final ministry. But he wants to go there in secret. He doesn't want people to know that he's going, so he's going to go down part way. He's going to stay in a town in Samaria, which is halfway between. Remember, the Jews, they like to circle around Samaria. So he's going straight down through it. He figures if he goes through Samaria, he won't be noticed. They won't see him coming. But they come down to the one town. He sends his apostles down there to get ready, to get a room for him. But the people there don't want him there. Why? Because he's going to Jerusalem. And the Samaritans and the Jews are antagonistic towards each other. So they say, you're not coming to serve, to minister to us. You just want a place to stop by on the way to go to talk to those annoying Jews. And so they won't let him stay. Now, James and John, the two brothers, they want to call down fire like Elijah did. Remember, Elias is just the Greek form of Elijah. And if you remember when it was Ahab's son. Ahab's son sent messengers. He sent an army of 50 soldiers to go get Elijah. And Elijah called down fire out of heaven and burnt him up. He did it twice. And the third time when they came, so the first 50 were burnt up, the second 50 were burned up, the third 50 came on their hands and knees begging him not to kill them. And that's what John and James are referring to. Should we call down fire and destroy these people? And Christ saying, no, you don't understand why I'm here. I'm not here to bring the wrath of God. I'm here to bring the mercy of God. And so what do? They go to a different village in Samaria. They still go through Samaria, but they find a village that is willing to let them lodge there. Now, I have my suspicion that it might be the same village where the one woman at the well that we read about early on in Christ's ministry, one of the first things he did when he stopped by in Samaria early on. And maybe he's going back to that same town now. But that's what's going on here. He is going down to Judea in secret. That's why he's passing through Samaria. But now let's look at the Joseph Smith translation real quick here. Not a lot. We have in verse 53, Instead of, and they did not receive him, it's, and the Samaritans would not receive him, because his face was turned as though he would go to Jerusalem. So, just minor clarification. In verse 54 it states, and when his disciples, James and John, saw that they would not receive him. So again, just minor clarifications, but that's it. Nothing major there in the Joseph Smith translation. So now, we flip to John. We're going to go to John chapter 7 and just read verses 10 through 13. Now remember, it was in John that he talked about his family urging him to go down to the Feast of Tabernacles. So we pick this up, verse 10. But when his brethren were gone up, then went he also up unto the feast, not openly, but as it were in secret. Then the Jews sought him at the feast, and said, Where is he? And there was much murmuring among the people concerning him, for some said, He is a good man. Others said, Nay, but he deceiveth the people. Howbeit no man spake openly of him, for fear of the Jews. In other words, Christ, his family's already down there, but he sneaks in. He doesn't let anybody know he's there. He sneaks in and he listens to what everybody's saying about him. These are the private whispered conversations. Nobody is like standing up in the temple and defending Christ because they fear the Jews. And when it says they fear the Jews, he's talking about the leaders of the Jews, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, these religious leaders. The people fear them, so they won't stand up openly to discuss Christ because they know that the leaders hate Christ. But they do talk about him in private conversations. They whisper about him during the feast. When the people gather together in their feasts at the tables, they talk amongst themselves. That's what's going on here. And Christ is just listening. He's feeling the waters. He's getting a read on the crowd before he does anything. So now, let us see if the Joseph Smith translation tells us anything here. In verse 10, we have, instead of but when his brethren, it is but after his brethren. And that's the only correction we have in these verses. Very minor. We leave that here, and for the next several videos, we will be reading in John. Most of the book of John seems to take place during this final few months of Christ's life. So we're going to be reading a lot in John next. I will see you there.